Hey everyone, Mark Edward Willows here, and welcome once again to Gabbin. Today I have with me a very special guest I'm really excited about, and I'm sure all of you ladies out there are definitely excited because if you have been a fan of All My Children, and let's face it, who has not been a fan of All My Children, joining me today he is here, Jackson Montgomery, Walt Willey. Walt, welcome to the program.
Mr. Willows, thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Hey, you are looking good.
Well, you know, I've got the lighting adjusted to a dull blur. Trick I learned from Outer Limits, actually.
This great technology. But
Great
anyway,
technology.
want to talk about your great career. I mean, everybody, of course, knows you from as Jackson from All My Children, but you've been doing this, correct me if I'm wrong, since like about 1981. And you're still standing and able to talk about it.
Well, I'm sitting right now, Mark. Let's be honest. I'm not standing and talking about it. I'm actually sitting on my big white ass and talking about it. I actually got to New York about 83 or so, but I've been doing theater since forever. I was a sculpture major in college at SIU, and my second year discovered theater. And did like 4 plays that second year and virtually forgot to go to classes because I had lines to learn and rehearsals to go to. So then rejoined a person who had been a student when I was a student there, was now tenured faculty. That many years had gone by. And he reached out to see if I wanted to play Dracula in a show called The Passion of Dracula. Been a fan of the Universal Monsters forever. And I had played the creature in Frankenstein when I first started doing theater there. So I went back and I did, I don't know, 2 summer stock seasons there and then went to New York. And 85, I got my first contract in daytime, which was with Another World. Ving Rhames and I were hired to play hitmen for Cecile, the Queen of Tankir.
Great way to start out a career as a hitman.
Some say, yeah, well, there's a funny story. Maybe we'll have time, maybe we won't. Then ABC, who had been using me for extra work for a long time, hired me as the 4th incarnation of Joe Novak on Ryan's Hope. And that lasted about 6 months. And then they fired both myself and the actress playing Siobhan. And wow, that was a nice little foray into daytime. Guess I'm done now. And then Megan McTavish, who was head writer on All My Children in 87, supposedly wrote Jackson for me. I never auditioned for it. I don't know if anybody else did either, but I auditioned for Jeff Martin, who was called something else in the audition, but I never auditioned for Jack, and started there in 87 and stuck with it as any good Midwestern boy with half a work ethic would, until we wrote it into the ground.
Yes, so. And of course, speaking Midwestern, you're from Illinois.
I am.
Illinois, which is kind of near to Chicago. So do you think being near to Chicago, yeah, you know, Chicago theater town, everything, do you think that had anything to do with you?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. You know, Chicago was a great theater town. Great theater town. However, when you're 90 miles away in the 60s and 70s, you know, we packed a lunch to go up to the museums in Chicago. It was, we had to pull off at the Oasis, you know what I'm talking about, to have a bite to eat, to sustain us until we got the rest of the way to Chicago. So didn't spend a lot of time. Wouldn't say I was influenced. Television. I grew up, I'm a television baby. I remember a snapshot of me when I was 1 or 1.5. And there I am in my crib, parked right in front of the TV. so I think but yet never, ever considered acting as a way one might make a living. Now, I knew people did, but I didn't think they came from Ottawa, Illinois. And I don't know if there was going to be somebody checking my passport at the gate to theater or what, but I never even considered it until I was in college. And I thought, well, let me see. I could continue as a sculpture major, no guarantees there, or I could maybe go to New York and try this. And I had a teacher in high school, Everett Lunning, who turned out to be a good friend years later. We weren't that far apart in age, maybe 10 years. And he had been in New York as an actor and worked on a couple of daytime shows, as I recall there. And I said, and this is the best advice I've ever gotten or could ever give anybody on this business of show. I said, what do you think? I really love this stuff. Should I move to New York? Should I give it a go? He said, if there's anything else that you think you might be happy doing, do that instead, because this is a miserable business.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't have that experience, but I sure knew a lot of people that did. You know, they say 10% of people who want to work in this business actually do. And of that 10%, only 10% of them make enough money to actually make a living at it. So I think I've been extremely fortunate.
And you had the opportunity to work for Agnes Nixon, who
I did.
sort of say was the queen of daytime television. What was Agnes
without a doubt.
like? I have met her. I thought she was a dream, a wonderful lady. What was your take working with her?
I was intimidated somewhat by the brilliance coming out of her eyes. I don't know how else to put it. She had a quiet, kind of an iron thing to her. She wasn't as big as a minute. She was a tiny little person, but brilliant, and liked the character that I was playing, thank goodness. And I think probably was behind a lot of the steering Jack to do this and that. And if Erica was indeed her doppelganger, as people have said throughout the years,
speaking of another queen of daytime,
exactly. And I think that you know, if that were the case, then I think that doppelganger was liked Jack a lot, because we were around on and off for 27 years on that show. I think only the first year or so did I not have anything to do with Erica.
Yeah.
And then it was, you know, and to be part of I guess they call them super couples, I don't know, like that, on and off for a quarter century. That's Agnes, you know, that's Agnes putting this kind of dynamics together. Absolutely.
Now, of course, you know, soaps have changed. There's only 4 of them left today on the air.
I think there were a dozen, Mark. When I hit New York, I think there were a dozen, or very close to it. I mean, Search for Tomorrow was still on, Secret Storm, The Doctors. They were, and I worked most of them doing background work, you know.
Now, let me ask you this. How do you think they have changed over the years? You know, my opinion, back in the day, you know, more love, more lust, more all that. Today, it seems like it's more crime drama. That's my opinion. Well,
I think here's my valued opinion, which is as important as anybody else's, not as important as anybody else's. You know, they were a reflection of a time, and that time included women basically not in the workforce.
Right.
So the demographic changed throughout time, and I think they very badly wanted to identify a new demographic, but there really wasn't one. So they tried on a lot of different suits, and like you say, the crime drama was one of them that they tried on. The shaky camera thing, which was pretty short-lived on our show, but I think that's where they made the mistake. I think it is a quaint, somewhat, to say the least, anachronistic medium. And I think if they had embraced that, to where it was almost, I don't want to say kitsch, but kind of tongue-in-cheek, and yet an homage to that type of storytelling. Let's face it, serial storytelling is the oldest thing that man has done, whether it was pictographs or tales around a campfire. Funny story, I have a place in New Mexico and spent quite a bit of time there, and went to Acoma, Sky City, which is an Indian reservation. They are Pueblo Indians, and they've been living in the same way for 700 years on this ridgetop. I went there. I just had my first child. I was on paternity leave. I hadn't shaved. I had a baseball cap on, sunglasses. We went to tour this place with my child strapped to my chest. And the guide immediately, I guess, recognized my voice, and because I said, "Hey," and I asked him a question about something on the top there, and he said, "Yeah, well, that's what that is." Now, can I ask you a question? Is Haley really as good looking as she seems to be? I said, "How do you know? They have no electricity up there, no running water. They're living in the traditional way." I said, "How the hell do you know about Haley?" He said, "We watch all my children every day." We hook a TV up to a 12-volt battery in the truck, and we stand around, we watch it, because that was their heritage. Everybody gathering around a campfire, whether it's an electronic campfire or a real campfire, and listen to the story. And I was doing a comic strip for, I think it was Soap Opera Update or Weekly. I'm not sure which at that time.
Digest, Weekly, there were so many.
Well, no, but I only worked for two of them. And I'm pretty sure it was Weekly. And I did a cartoon about that, of that exact thing happening. And I thought, wow, so this is kind of, and if you look at nighttime soaps, they're just soaps. It just, they only have to fill 13 or 26 episodes instead of 260 as we had
and 90 pages a day. Let me ask you, Walt, what was the feeling like on the set when you found out All My Children was canceled? Because I know the rest of the world collapsed. So what was it like for you guys?
Well, they had been teasing this for some years. I mean, you would have to be kind of silly to not see around you all the other ones going down. I mean, Guiding Lights, 75 years in broadcast, including radio, and gone. Another world gone.
As the world turns.
As the world turns, gone. And I think for us to think that we are somehow immune to this would be a little silly. Then a new executive came in who I believe had no love for daytime save for one show. And I think that was the real death knell. I think there was nobody calling the shots that frankly gave a shit about daytime. I think, on the other hand, I mean, to be fair, you can produce All My Children for about 40 million a year, and you can produce The Chew for about 4 million a year. So, and when you have decreasing viewership and watching it on tape doesn't count because they know you're fast forwarding through all the commercials. Yes. So it just doesn't count. So I think it was inevitable. I think it could have been done differently. I think it would have been very easy for them and good for them to walk it right over to internet. But these things happen. And for my part, after being almost 25 years on the show, I mean, look, great job, wonderful friends, nothing to complain about whatsoever. But I haven't really missed it yet.
Let me ask you this, because there has been speculation that Kelly Ripa Haley is thinking of bringing it back.
She's bringing a show called Pine Valley. Now, I don't know that it's going to be a reboot exactly.
Well, I heard that it's going to be like the children of the main actors. Now, I don't know if that is true.
Yeah, I think it's
you. If you were asked to come back, would you?
To work for Kelly and Mark, absolutely. I have the utmost respect. We vacation together with all our kids. I consider them, though I don't see them very often.
I've interviewed for many years.
Good friends and great producers.
Yes, I've interviewed for many years. She's a brilliant woman.
She's brilliant. She's the best. Brilliant. She's the best. Yes. And Mark is I'm going to guess, I haven't worked for them in that capacity, but I'll guess that they're both tough, demanding producers, and I would rather work for nobody else than somebody who's tough and demanding. Let's get it done and do it right.
The qualities there. Now, I also need to ask you, because a lot of people have been writing me and saying, you need to ask Walt, what was it like to work with Susan Lucci?
Susan who? Lucci, yeah. The one
that won the Emmy Award.
From working with me, it's funny. Watched her lose so many years, and I was doing a lot of stand-up comedy at that time, and I said, Susan, I tell you what, I think I'm bad luck. I'm going to book a show. I'm going to book a show as far away from you as I possibly can, and let's see if that doesn't work. On Emmy night, I'll be across the country, I promise you. So I booked a club in Seattle. Now, I don't know how much further away from New York you can get, but that was pretty good, I thought. And that was the night she won. Did I hate not being there? Wow. Yes. And will I believe to my dying day that because I wasn't there might have been part of the reason she won? Yes. So, she's wonderful. She's a consummate pro, knows her lines, hits her marks, is willing to listen to your take on things. I've heard stories from other sets and I've worked on a few other sets from time to time. And I will tell you that All My Children had the reputation of being one of the most fantastic sets to work on in New York. So that makes it the best set to work on in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And I think it was a reputation well earned. Great bunch of people for 25 years. I mean, I don't think we ever went through a slump with crappy people, So I think that's it. But Susan was an excellent look. I got to work with Susan. I mean, come on.
Oh, absolutely. How did she remain so beautiful? I saw her recently. I mean, she's just drop dead gorgeous is the only way to describe.
Well, she used to suck my blood when, to revive her, me having good genes. And I think that, I don't know, stem cell therapy. I don't have any idea. I will say this, her mother, whom I've met a couple of times, came to our wedding down in Florida, by the way. Her mother, who I believe is 103 now.
Wow.
Is one of the most beautiful women I've ever seen. People think of Susan as Italian. Well, on her dad's side, she is, but her mother's a Swede and refined and high cheekbones and just a beautiful, beautiful woman. I think, I think Susan is genetically privileged, as they say, and wears it well.
Yes. Now I want to touch, you mentioned stand-up, and I know you've been doing it, Chicago, all over different cities. How did that come up? I mean, stand-up, let's face it, Walt, has to be, I think, one of the toughest jobs that you can do. I mean, stand-up comedians really deserve a lot. It's tough. How did it come up for you?
Amen. Now, here I am with a perfectly good job in daytime. What do I decide to do? Why, let me go every weekend into a club. I'll put it this way, and I wish this wasn't tainted now, but the very first 33 1/3 album that I bought was Bill Cosby's I Started Out as a Child. Not rock, not music, but Bill Cosby, circa 1963 or whenever it was. I have quickly developed my way to Pryor, and then, but I've always loved it. I've always loved it. And, I'm considered funny by my peers and all like this, but that's a different story, by the way. People who are funny in a group, maybe not so funny by themselves, as I found out once or twice. But I always wanted to do it. And I figured with the launching pad of All My Children, couldn't hurt. Sure. So maybe I give it a go. So I booked a club up in as a mob joint up in New Haven, Connecticut as my first time out. And I've been up a couple times. Rosie O'Donnell used to host the open mic night at Catch a Rising Star when I first started to do this. She was a big Ryan's Hope fan. So I always got up, I always got some mic time. But I loved it. I come from the theater. Like my good friend Terrence Mann says, movies make you famous, television makes you rich, but theater makes you good. And I think part of that is the fact that you're working live, you have audience feedback. You can tell if you're doing any good. You can tell if it's working, you can catch a vibe, you can ride a wave, you can do all those things that people talk about. And it makes all the difference in the world to me. And being in a studio 8-9 hours, 4 days a week, let's say on average, and as you say, maybe 90 pages to be produced that day. Maybe you're not on all of them, but the idea of getting out working live was very attractive. And also I didn't have to be Jack all the time, because Jack and I are very different people. So it was nice to show people another side.
Do you think
ABC didn't like it? P.S. ABC wasn't
really?
thrilled about it. No, I had lawyers take me out to 21 and pick up the check. So, okay, lawyers picking up the check at 21, they were serious. They thought it wasn't a good idea for me to do
Let me
that.
ask you though, but by doing what you've done, I mean, theater, stand-up, television, versatile is the word. Do you think that's what made you so successful all these years? Because you're able to do all of this stuff.
I mean, it's all the same wellspring as far as I'm concerned, whether it's painting or stand-up or whatever role. Like after All My Children was done, I had written a one-man show about Wild Bill Hickok, who is from Illinois as well, by the way, from a little town about half hour from my little town, and toured with that for most of 2012, 13, 14. And again, I didn't feel like I was doing anything different. It was, I mean, there's a lot more lines that I had to memorize ever, but since I wrote them, it was a little easier. But I think it's all the same wellspring. It's all about, how can I say this? It's about recreating life. Whether it's a watercolor portrait or a watercolor landscape, or acting or doing stand-up, because it's that take on life. Whether it's funny or it touches you or however it works, and I guess being able to hop from one foot to the other. Like I hosted a lot of game shows. I did a lot of hosting. Everything from the Tournament of Roses Parade to the Ford Supermodel of the Year, and love doing that stuff too. But then it's, read a prompter and think on your feet was all it required. Right. But I guess that's a tough one sometimes. But I feel.
Yeah, let's talk about your artwork, your watercolor. I have seen some of your pictures online. They are beautiful.
Thanks.
Tell us about that. Do you do it for anyone? Is someone interested? Where do
I'll do it for anyone.
Oh.
I'll do it for anyone.
You wouldn't want to do this face, trust me.
Are you kidding? I'd love to do that face. I was like I say, an art major for that year and a half. I actually went to college, but I never painted. And here I am, retired. I had just gotten married, moved to Nashville, didn't really know a soul. Unbeknownst to us, we were about to get shut down for a year and a half. And I noticed that there was a watercolor painting class as part of the parks department here in Nashville. So I went, took a few classes, and I probably should have taken an intermediate class because I kind of knew things like, red and blue make purple. So I was had a bit of an advantage, and then I just started painting. I probably have 300 paintings around this house that, I just in the process of learning how, just watching tutorials.
Do you sell it? People want to purchase it?
Yeah, I do a lot of original art. I also do portraiture, people, their pets. I just work from a photograph. You might email me. People can go to the Walt Willey workshop on Etsy. Go to Etsy and just Google my name. It'll pop up. And I think it's the only thing that pops up when you Google my name on Etsy. I mean, when you search my name on Etsy. But then you can send me a photo and pick your size and how many subjects in it. It's quite simple.
And you said you do animals.
I'm involved.
Right?
What's that?
You do animals, correct?
I do.
Oh.
I do.
My famous cat.
Oh, I've painted a lot of cats. I wish I'd known. I would have sent you some things you could have put up or something in your still storage. I'm not going to run around. And there's some things up there. There's a thing of John Callahan up there. You might be able to see where it is up there.
Yes.
It's
very talented gentleman.
Yeah.
And also, speaking of John Callahan, I might as well throw it in. There's going to be some upcoming benefit or something in August, I heard. Tell us a little about that.
August 1st, and it's a laundry list of All My Children people put together by Linda Rowe from Coastal Entertainment and Eva LaRue, John's ex and mother of his child, Kaya. They're putting together, I mean, there's, we got Angie and Jesse and Larry and Greg from those days when I was doing extra work on the show. And then some more contemporary folks like myself and Susan. So it's to raise money for two of John Callahan's favorite charities. It's a fairly inexpensive ticket for, I think, just to get in there and watch. I think there's a VIP thing that you can go in and actually be on the screen with us.
Wow.
Yeah.
The technology, that's
Yeah, you can actually rub elbows on the screen, I guess, or avatar elbows, perhaps. But yeah, so that's August 1st. Go to my Facebook; it's posted there, and I'm sure everybody else's Facebook and Twitter as well. But thanks for asking about that.
Hey,
Yeah,
I wanted to just get back to your watercoloring. Now, when you do a
sure.
picture, a portrait, how long does it take you to do it? I mean, say if I were to send you the picture of my cat, how long would it take?
Well, first of all, I put yours in front of everybody else's.
Oh,
okay, I'd let you cut in line.
I would expect that, Walt.
Of course you would. The only I work pretty quickly. Watercolors are pretty quick medium. Some time is spent waiting for things to dry, which is why I take my hair dryer from the bathroom into my studio so I can dry my painting and move on with the damn thing. I can usually finish. I'll work on 2 or 3 at a time just because of that drying thing, because sometimes you just need to get away from painting for a couple of minutes or so to get a fresh look at it. But I do about 2 a week, maybe.
Wow.
I think 2, maybe 3, just depending upon size and intricacy. I did a 40-some person wedding party a few months ago. That was not 3 days. That was closer to 2 weeks, but got it done. Yeah.
Interesting. Well, I will be sending you my cat. I really will. Yeah.
I've done so many cats. I have my 2 cats. I'm constantly painting.
My life. Solid black.
Solid black.
Solid black.
We recently, I guess 2 years ago, rescued my wife Sarah did out from under a garbage scow. She rescued this little tuxedo kitty. Well, he turns out to be a Norwegian forest cat. So now we have a 16-pound cat at 2 years old, and who is absolutely making the Bengal cat just go, what? No. It just keeps getting bigger and bigger. So we'll see what happens.
Yes. Well, finally, tell us, what's the future yet? What are your plans? Something still out there you want to do?
I have no idea. I'm glad to say I have no idea what the future holds. I mean, I'm enjoying this. I mean, if like I haven't done Wild Bill in maybe a year and a half or so, and I haven't done stand-up since I think 2014. I think the last time I did it, I met my wife that night, my to-be wife that night. And I figured it ain't gonna get any better than that. I'm just gonna stop now. But I don't know. Now that the plague is off us, at least a bit.
Yeah.
I've been threatening to go over to Zanies here and maybe get up on stage and try some stuff out, because I'm always writing in my head. I used to write mostly on stage. I'd run off stage and grab cocktail napkins and write down what I could remember what I'd said. But right now, I don't know. We've got some traveling to do now that things have started.
Just take
it
day by day.
Yeah, well, that's it. But it's at the risk of sounding something, I don't even know what it would be. Having this time down to just immerse myself in some of the things that I have missed and some things I didn't know I'd missed across this past year and a half has been blessing is probably too strong a word considering the reason, but it hasn't been all bad. Picked up watercolor and lost 25 pounds that I put on during the damn thing. And so it's not been, not wood or a wood-like substance. It's not been terrible. And I hope for the future to be, my mother lived to be 96, her sister to 102, and the other sister to 89. So I may be around for a while.
You have a long way to go.
I'd like the future to be interesting, at least, please, and healthy for all of us would be good. But that's what I know about that.
Well, Walt, thank you so much for stopping by. It was a pleasure.
It's my pleasure.
Before we go, quickly tell everyone.
Do you validate parking? Do you validate when I leave?
Yes.
I'm sorry, you were saying.
Tell everyone before we go your pictures. If anyone's interested, where do they go looking for it?
Oh, paintings.
Yes.
You can go to Etsy, then search, if you will, Walt Willey, Willey. I'm Irish, not English. Walt Willey Workshop. And you'll see some of the things I've done in the past for folks. You see some original art. And if you want a commissioned a portrait for yourself, click on the painting I did of my lovely wife holding a guitar, and that will take you to everything you need to know.
Yes. Well, Walt, once again, thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. Good luck.